Welcome to Truth and Company Boxing Podcast. I'm your host, John, the Truth Dioria, and tonight we have another segment of 20 random questions. And tonight's guest is all the way from Canada, six-time world champion, Jeannine Garside. How you doing, Jeannine?
Thank you, John. I'm delighted to be here chatting with you. I love answering questions, like I said. And so I'm feeling great, doing great.
So now I
Thanks to
mentioned you're
everybody that took the time to listen in.
so I mentioned you're in Canada, so we were just talking off air. You're in a small little remote town. So tell me exactly where you are.
I'm currently hanging out in a small fishing town called Port Renfrew on the coast of Vancouver Island.
Wow, that sounds pretty nice.
It's fantastic. It's beautiful. I take you for a walk through the scenery, but I'm currently just kind of at the campsite, so it's not as exciting as the beach and the boats. But yeah,
Okay, so are you ready for these random 20 questions?
I'm as ready as I will ever be.
Okay.
I was
All right.
born ready, isn't
Question
that what
one.
we say?
Yeah, there you go. Question one. Tell me about your background and your upbringing a little bit.
I had a fantastic upbringing out here in Duncan, British Columbia, which is not far from where I'm currently sitting. Beautiful little town. I was raised by my mother Lorna, my father Alan. I have a younger sister and two younger brothers, so I was the oldest and the meanest, and I took charge. I had two younger servants and one younger sister.
So everything was just a nice, happy home.
It was a nice, happy home for the most part. I mean, every family has its dramas, and
Yeah.
I remember some of the times people would say, everybody leave Jeannine alone. Do not talk to Jeannine right now, because I had a tendency to snap and lose it, like maybe some other champs might have, and so everybody knew to just give me ample space during those moments.
All right.
But it was entertaining, and my father and I butted heads a lot. My father played a huge role in my upbringing. I can't deny that. I was definitely sort of a daddy's girl. I spent a lot of time following him around and learning about how to fix cars and go fishing and do all those kinds of things. And, if he was ever doing anything, I was his little helper. And I also learned how to break horses and all kinds of things, just following along with Dad. So it was fun.
All right, and
And
that's
he
gonna
also
lead right.
became my
Oh, go
number
ahead.
one fan in boxing. Sorry, go
And
ahead.
that's gonna lead right into our question number two is how did you get involved in the sport of boxing?
And so his name comes up again, but you know what? Born and raised in a small town, I have a lot of friends, family, and fans here today in Duncan. And um, after high school, I was probably not doing anything good with my life. I was having fun, and I wasn't sure what direction I wanted to take, but I did have a background in athletics and sport, and I noticed a tough man competition posted on a telephone pole, and there was a women's tag team division. My sister being pretty tough her own self, I thought her and I had a good standing chance to win the grand prize of $1,000. And at that time, that seemed like something I wanted to shoot for. So I talked her into maybe doing it with me, and my wheels started turning, thinking some of the competitors may have some type of training and I should look into that. So I walked into my first boxing club in Duncan. It was Bar's Gym. I took my sister with me. My father offered to pay for any type of training I wanted to do. He was very supportive of us pursuing this boxing. It was a ring sports gym, so it was like kickboxing, boxing, martial arts, all in one. And I just fell in love with it the minute I walked in the door. And kind of as I got to know my coach, my first coach, we kicked the tough man dreams to the side and started pursuing amateur boxing, which is what I sort of fell in love with.
So you never even made it into that competition in with your sister?
No, no. And she found out that she loved the training, but she didn't really love. It's hard to say what people don't like more, getting punched in the face or punching other people in the face. But it's not for everybody, I would say. And she realized that wasn't for her. But she loved, the athletic development part of it. But I loved the punching in the face equally as much as getting punched in the face. I didn't mind taking one to give one.
I find that interesting that this all started about a tough man competition to win $1,000, and then you didn't even
Yeah.
end up going in the competition,
No.
and now you're a six-time world champion.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, so
you got your $1,000 though.
I did. I did. It wasn't $1 million baby, maybe $1,000 baby. My
Right?
biggest purse was like $20,000 baby.
Okay.
But
Well,
still, it was like just a fantastic journey. But that's where it all began, and it was interesting because the background inspiration was at that time when Christy Martin had that big fight with Deidre on the undercard of Mike Tyson, which also inspired Layla Ali. And we learned that about each other when we were together being inducted into the Women's International Boxing Hall of Fame. So that's kind of interesting too.
yeah, and that had been a great honor to be put into the Hall of
It was
Fame.
fantastic. It was a good moment.
All right, question 3. Did you have any boxing superstitions when you were fighting?
I refused to have any boxing superstitions. What a stupid thing to do, because you realize right off the bat, if you tell them you want the blue corner, they're going to give you the red corner for sure. So don't start preferring one over the other because you're just shooting yourself in the foot. So I knew right away that I didn't want to attach myself to any of that. I mean, this is 100%, like 100%, a 90%, 10%. Not like they say 80% mental, 20% physical. The physical's got to be there, but you've got to have everything, your faculties screwed on. You want to be all about winning the fight, and I was. People said, "How often did you train?" I said, once I signed a contract or I knew I had a fight, I ate, slept, and breathed boxing. It's all I thought about, like every second of every day. I was obsessed about it. So you want to be obsessed about the right things and not superstitions or, you know, because yeah, it's just counterintuitive for sure.
Okay, question 4. Who's the one fighter that you never got to fight that you really wanted to?
That I never got to fight that I really wanted to.
Yeah.
Jelena Mladenovic. Quick answer.
Okay. All
Yeah,
right.
and you can go back in the history books and you'll probably know why.
All right.
It should have
Quick.
happened. I still got it. I still got it in me for that fight. I'll tell you that right now.
But does she?
I don't think she ever had it in her for that fight.
Okay. Question
I don't know.
5.
I
Oh,
had my son. It's
go
nothing
ahead.
personal per se. I had my son, and after I kind of stepped down from boxing, people kind of moved into the featherweight division. I don't know. I claimed to be the best in the world in the featherweight division that you know I was undisputed in. So I took a little bit of that personally, and I just never really. And then I was recovering from that, and I sort of retired after my fight in Germany, and I just never really got a chance to prove who was really the featherweight champion in Canada. This is in Canada because her and I are both Canadians, so just to really prove who's the best in Canada means a lot to me. So, and I never really got the opportunity to do that. And we're
Maybe you
both we're
can.
both excellent boxers, so it would have been an outstanding
Is there any
opponent to have
way
had.
that you could get an exhibition put together with her?
I'm sure that could be a possibility. It's probably not completely lost and gone. So
I'm sure the
hopefully people are
Canadian
listening.
fans would love to watch that.
I'm certainly willing to step in the ring, and if it was an exhibition or even whatever we could come up with, yeah, that hasn't really settled for me.
So do you train
That
still a little
score.
bit on the side, just kind of to stay in shape, or?
Yeah, I do try to stay in shape, and so I say, it's just when you're the champ, anybody could be challenging you at any minute. I always say I could come out of retirement in 5 minutes. No, give me 1 minute. Let me just go step into my change room over here.
Yeah.
But no, it's like people kind of, I feel like, have an expectation of you, and I have an expectation of myself. So I try to maintain a certain level because if there's something heavy and somebody's lifting it, I better be able to do it. You know what I mean? Because I'm champ. It's something
Okay.
that you carry as being the champ, I guess.
All right. Question 5. What's something that your boxing fans don't know about you?
Um, I'm not sure. I guess I would have to ask my boxing fans. um, Probably something that, if I were to be honest, that came first to mind is some of my boxing fans might not know that, well, there's a lot of things they might not know, but a lot of people might not know that I'm a recovered alcoholic.
Wow, I did not know that. How many years clean?
And that was part of my journey through my career in boxing. I went into a bit of a, after winning my first world title, which was my dream and my goal my whole entire life, I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to do with myself. There was still more that could come, and you know, recovering from alcoholism wasn't what I had planned. But I guess it was what God had planned for me, and it ended up being one of the best things that ever happened to me. I call it the great humbling that I needed to receive in my life, and as I pursued my life after that, I had a new and profound passion and spirituality for life and for my achievements. Whereas in the past, I kind of always felt like I didn't deserve it way in the back somewhere. And after I had, worked through some of my spiritual ailments and come back to the ring, I was like refreshed and, like I said, newly humbled, and my ego was in check. And I was able to win 3 world titles in Germany and just get on my hands and knees and be grateful that I was given that opportunity, and I was able to stand up to the opportunity when it came in a way, and accept that I deserved to receive, you know, that glorious moment. And in the past, I always felt like there was, if you really knew who I was, you wouldn't think I deserved to be the champ. But it had nothing to do with it. It was internal things that I had to work through, and it was part of my boxing career. I think it was part of me becoming the champ. So yeah,
I get it because I'm a recovering alcoholic as well.
it's not something that's easy to admit, and it was the first thing that came to my mind, and so I reluctantly said it.
No, I
And
appreciate you
I'm not,
saying it. I
and I
really
am.
do.
I'm not the only one out there. I'm not alone. So that's interesting too. When I look at, like Sugar Ray Leonard, I know that he's, made it public in a few ways that he's clean and sober. So
Well, congratulations on your
it might
journey
have
and
something to
getting
do
sober.
with the frontal lobe. I don't know. I'm not a scientist.
All right, well, question 6. What is the first thing you did after winning the first world title? How did you celebrate?
Party. Had a beer. Ah, after winning my first world title, no, I mean, it was a dream come true. There were so many special things about it. It was my fourth ever professional fight, and I had an extensive amateur career, and I take a lot of pride in that. It meant a lot to me at that time for the sport developing that women had a good showing in the ring, and we came in the ring, even as my first professional fight, with skill and ability. So I had 50 amateur bouts under my belt before I stepped in the ring as a professional. That meant a lot to me, and I take a lot of pride in that. And so, because of that, I was, you know, able to fight for a world title after only having four professional fights, and it was questioned whether or not they were going to sanction the fight, and I knew I could win this fight. And the interesting thing was my coach, Margaret Sidoroff, a fighter world champion in her own right, also fought for her first world title on her fourth bout, and she was present and training me at that time. And so, and she was the one that asked me if I, she kind of took the fight for me. She was the one that told me I got the fight. And so it was a really special time. And the first thing I did was, ask somebody to bring me a beer right after the fight.
Okay.
And then I went, and I went and celebrated with my friends and my family who were all there to support me. It was against Lisa Brown in Edmonton, actually here in Canada. And I will never forget it. I still think it was my best performance of all my fights. I just really was focused and I trained really hard, which I did for all my fights, but I really liked that fight.
You actually fought her twice, right?
I did. And they scored it right as a draw the second time. It was, there was a lot of, if we got into some of the politics of it, but at that time, our first fight was televised. I had a contract to fight for the same amount of money for the second fight as a rematch, that I apparently had a contract for a rematch. And honestly, I didn't feel like I could perform any better another time against her. And I didn't want a rematch, to be honest. And then when they told me it wasn't going to be televised and I was going to get paid half the amount of money, why would I want to do that? Who would want to do that, right? So, but I felt sort of backed in a corner, like I had to do it. And I kind of relate to Roberto Duran. It's not nearly on the same level, but it was like I kind of felt like I kind of forced into it. That was my position with the experience of it. And I fought the first 5 rounds sort of, and I trained exactly the same way, but just my heart wasn't into it, you know what I mean? But I had the physical ability, and that's why it's up here, like I said earlier, it's up here. And after the 5th round, I woke up and smelled the coffee like, you are going to lose your world title right now if you don't wake up and start fighting. And that's exactly what I did. If there was 2 more rounds in that fight, I probably would have stopped her. But it took me to the 5th round before I even started fighting. And she was out for redemption. She wanted me bad, and she fought hard. It was a good fight, and ended up being a draw.
Okay.
The last 5 rounds gave to me 5-5, and the winner goes to the champion, which fortunately at that time I was.
So, question 7. Now, I want to know the answer to this, and I'm sure some of the fans do too. And I know you might have put some of it out there before in a different interview or something, but not everybody has probably heard the explanation between us.
Okay.
So, your last fight, you fight for 3 world titles. You fight an undefeated fighter that's 26-0. To most people, that would have been the pinnacle of their career. You win and you retire. Why?
Well, you know what? The reason why is like something in my head, like tell the truth, tell the truth, tell the truth. There's 3 different truths. There's 3 different reasons why. The first reason why is because part of the way through the fight, I had to take a test for a CAT scan. Like fighters have to do to prove that I was fit and healthy, mentally, in my brain and all that. And I never ever thought about it. I was like, yeah, just get this done, prove I'm good. But instead of it coming out good, it came out that I had fewer than normal lesions in the frontal lobe. That's not unusual considering my profession, I suppose. But it planted a seed that I refused. Like I just didn't want to plant the seed. I just ignored it because you can't be thinking that you have a weakness, and then you can't be worried about getting hurt, which I never ever ever was. But I put it in the way, 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 way back of my mind. So that was one of the things. And the other thing was I wanted my daughter to have a sibling. And I had my daughter during the transition I made from amateur to professional. And everybody said, oh, she's pregnant. She's never going to fight again. And this is one of the unique challenges that as women we have. So we have to raise a family and we have to recover from something like this. Um, and I knew I couldn't do it again. I didn't think I could, raise a family with two children and still be able to focus on boxing. But I really wanted to have a son. And so after the fight in Germany, I had signed a contract for 3 more fights. And I was a road warrior. I had to travel around the world and, fight as the underdog everywhere I went. And just, I struggled with, and like a story I love to tell is how I fought in Korea. I felt I should have won. I fought in Bosnia, defended my title. I felt I should have won. I don't like to go around saying I got ripped off, but I learned a very valuable lesson. What I really wanted was to win the WBC. That was my ultimate career goal, the green and gold, okay? Ultimate career goal. So, I heard people say to me that Ina Menzel would never fight me, this and that. And I know that other women had gone to fight her and felt like they should have won, but they didn't. After losing in Korea and after losing in Bosnia, I know what it takes now to win overseas. And I cannot give her anything, you know what I mean? I had to just bring my A game. I brought 110% of myself to that fight. And I felt like I gave everything that I had. So I wasn't disappointed to retire at that point. I felt like some of the obsession in the sport had lifted because I reached that goal of obtaining the WBC. That's not to say I didn't totally want to defend it. I was very hungry to defend it. I was bound by a 3-fight contract with, oh my gosh, forgive me, the promotional company in, I can't
Well,
remember.
then so how did you? So then how did you get? How did you get out of that contract then?
Well, I just waited and waited and trained and waited and waited until finally they admitted that she had no intentions of ever rematching me, which I already knew in my heart.
Okay.
And that they had nothing for me. And, it's Germany. I don't know if I have any legal standings. And like at that point, I was like, okay, then I'm out. I'm going to have my son that I've been dreaming to have. And that's what I did.
Okay. I was just curious because I don't know anybody else that has ever won 3 world titles in a fight, beat somebody undefeated like that, and that was it. Usually that's the pinnacle of, you're not on
But
top
really,
now.
does it get any better? Did I have to? I mean,
no, it
right?
doesn't.
So
No, it
why
doesn't.
not?
No, you're
Why
right.
not go out on top? Because I don't have, yeah. And I always just say to my dad too now, and it's hard because I want to come back in a lot of ways all the time. I see things and I think I can do it. But I also don't want to be, I used to say to my dad, I ain't going to be my bag is no springboard for somebody else.
Well, see,
don't.
I always was curious. I didn't know if there was like a secret injury, and then you just didn't tell anybody about it. Because I thought did she get injured somehow in a training or something, and she just didn't tell anybody? Because I'm like, why did she win 3 titles and then never fight again?
Yeah.
So I thought maybe it was a career-ending
But see,
injury.
I think the WBC came back to Canada and Jelena had it, and it was like a mandatory title. They told me it would be a mandatory title defense. And just life didn't, I didn't have the obsession to come back. I had made that choice to retire, and they had inducted me into the Hall of Fame, and I just felt like that was the route that I was going to take at that point. So,
right.
But that's probably part of the reason too why I have a little bit of regret. Like maybe that was my opportunity to have that fight with Jelena, and I missed it. So.
All right. Well, question 8: what's the craziest or funniest story that ever happened between you and a boxing fan?
I can't say it's funny because it's not. It's more personal.
Well, no, that's fine too. I just want to hear a story that has to do with a boxing fan.
I had a huge, and Laura Serrano, she fought Ina Menzer also. and lost to her, but felt she had won that fight. But she was a tiger in the ring, and she was my senior. Really, she had been in the sport for quite a while and was probably on the tail end of her career when I fought her. But I had so much respect for her, and her for me too. And that was so special at the end of the fight. And I'm telling you, I won that fight, but her heart and her drive stole the show, because like for her to stay in there and fight the way that she did was just it was amazing to see. And it was, you could see her pushing herself to her limit that night. And it was just amazing, and I didn't really know the depth of it. So the brilliant thing about it was, again, and it brings light to how important things like the International Women's Hall of Fame is, because what happened, so she signed her shorts and gave them to me, and I still have them, and it was just super special to me, that, that camaraderie. And who else understands what's going on in there than you and the other boxer? So we ended up being inducted at the same time. So we spent all night just talking about that fight. And to be able to, 10 years later, talk about that fight with your opponent, it was so awesome. To see her perspective on it and share with her at that level, that was magic. And I'll tell you one other funny thing that happened.
No, go ahead.
People know me as being heartless, and my coach used to say it because, and like I was heartless in sparring. And I remember, like, if you said, "Don't hit me here because I've got an injury there," this kid would say, and I would immediately go and hit him there right off that bat. I was like, "Don't tell me that. What do you think's gonna happen? Don't tell me that." I feel like I'm teaching him a lesson. And then, and this one kid was just quick, like a rabbit. Just, and he'd get in there and he'd hit me a bunch of times, and then he'd take off, and I did it. And I'm more of a puncher, right? So I'm chasing after him, looking for him, and I can't tag him because he's just so damn quick. And so I took it to the next level. I had a plan, and this is just how things unfold in your mind when you're willing to go to any extent. And someone just told me something like, "If you're not cheating, you're not trying hard enough." I heard somebody say that. It's not cheating. It's like your brain will take you anywhere to get the job done. So my mouthpiece sort of slides off, and my face is kind of pressed into his chest a bit, and I'm just thinking, I'm going to bite this guy. And then when he says, "What the hell is she doing?" I'm going to clock him with all my might. And this is my game plan. So I start fighting him. And this is just sparring, and I realized that I had gone too far. And everybody kind of like makes fun of me after that. But then the kid told me he ended up going and doing the same thing in one of his fights. So, hey, man, I taught him something too. Anyway, that was kind of funny.
All right, question 9. If you could have a boxing match with any fighter in history, alive or dead, who would your ultimate fight be against?
You know what? That's a really good question. It's a definite step up from who's your favorite fighter. Who do you want a piece of? I used to always want to fight Layla Ali, but that's kind of like... I know my favorite fighter used to be Roberto Duran, but I would never want to fight him. I'm not crazy. I would love to get in the ring with, and I know I'd probably get destroyed, but just, he's one of my favorite fighters because of the things he does, and I just know that I could experience greatness and learn so much from him. And I already tried to use some of his moves, is Manny Pacquiao, and he's so happy to come into the ring. He's smiling, and I bond with that because I always came into the ring smiling, and I just love Pacquiao. I'd love to meet. I would fight him just for the opportunity to meet him and get that close to him, maybe even bleed on him a little.
Okay. Question 10. If you could star in a movie with any actor, what actor would you want to star with?
Oh my gosh, I know exactly who it would be. Joaquin Phoenix. I love that man. I think he's brilliant, and all the work he does is brilliant. So that's a quick answer for me.
Okay. Question 11. If you could have a conversation with one person in history, who would it be?
Oh, that's a good one too. Joan of Arc.
Nice.
I'm sure you can make sense of that too.
All right, question 12. Who was the hardest puncher you've ever faced in the ring in a fight or sparring?
Oh, that's a good question. I got my skull cracked by a guy just random sparring in the gym one time. I didn't want to admit it, and I was hurt, but I didn't want to admit it. It was probably the hardest time I ever got hit. It didn't knock me out, but it kind of made things a little bit fuzzy. And it was straight on the forehead, straight on the forehead. So I don't know what happened there. And his name was Matt, and that was in Calgary. And it kind of left a bit of residual for a bit. But, you know, I have to say, the hardest puncher, I can't deny it, and I knew I had it coming, and I moved up in weight to take the fight, was Chevelle Hallback. Have you seen this woman?
Yes,
I've
interviewed her before.
Okay. Okay. And we fought, and at the end of the fight, she says to me, and I tell this story all the time because I think it's funny too. She says to me, or she says to the announcer, that woman right there, I don't know exactly how she, but she says, she's got one heck of a hard head, she says about me, and I'm thinking, whatever, I clocked you too. We were both banging at each other, I got some good shots in. I'm thinking to myself, hard head, I take offense to this initially. And then the next morning, I got up to brush my hair, and I didn't have any black eyes, which I've had in fights before. But I go to brush my hair, and my head is just lumps. It's like, ow, 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 ow. And I laughed to myself, and I thought, oh, yeah, I do have a hard head. She can hit. That woman can hit.
All right, question 13. Give me your Mount Rushmore of boxing for you, in your opinion.
Well, it's definitely winning that fight in Germany. That was the ultimate.
No. I mean your fighters, your top 4 fighters, your Mount Rushmore.
Oh, my Mount Rushmore. I thought it was like an experience. Okay. Terrence Crawford right now is the best fighter pound for pound. Let's just say it. He is. Okay. And why do I love him? Because he's like the Floyd Mayweather that's willing to take a risk, but nobody will freaking fight him. And I went through the same shit. Excuse my language. And I know what he's going through. And it's not fair because it doesn't matter if he Phil stands or not. If you know, you know. He is the best fighter out there right now. And so since he's alive and active, I will take him at the top. Number 1. And you all know that I love Manny Pacquiao. And so he's going to rank right in there, snuggled up, number 2. And this is a toughie, but I have to put Floyd Mayweather number 3. Because if I fought exactly how my coach trained me to fight, I would fight just like Floyd Mayweather. And he is the master of hit and don't get hit. He is the master, and I have to give it to him whether I like it or not. And then number 4 is past fighter, Roberto Duran. And I just always had a crush on him and his fight style. So that's it.
All right. Question 14. Who was your favorite opponent to fight and why?
I liked fighting Lisa Brown. I liked fighting them all. Like, that's a tough question. Do I really have to pick one? Because I liked it all. You know who was the best? Okay, let me say this. Brooke Dierdorf. No Mercy Dierdorf. That was a freaking war. And she just kept getting up and coming back for more. And it just made a real hell of a fight. And at first I didn't give her the credit she deserved. But in any fight, your opponent makes the fight with you. You're not in there alone. So, and she just, I put her down, I don't know how many times, and she just kept getting up and coming back for more. And we just had a real toe-to-toe war. It was fun.
Okay. Question 15. Have you ever been a volunteer working with the youth, the elderly, or the disabled?
Have I ever been involved in?
Yeah.
I've spent a lot of time working with the kids in the boxing club, and I also taught a program, and I just recently left Windsor, so I'm not doing it currently. But I mean, I'd jump back in here in a heartbeat. Just haven't set the wheels in motion. But have you heard of a program called Rocksteady?
No.
So it's a program that a woman developed. And I wish I could give you her name, but I just don't have it in my mind right now. But it's for people with Parkinson's, and it's boxing for
Oh.
people with Parkinson's. So I'm not sure. Does that ring a bell to you now?
No,
So
yeah,
our
but I mean,
boxing club,
I've heard different programs about that though. That part people
yeah.
are getting involved in that.
So this woman, her husband, I believe, like I don't take me word for word, but along the lines of had Parkinson's, and she just started recognizing that some of the things she did in boxing were the similar kind of things that would help him with Parkinson's. So she started working with him in boxing. He started doing it and noticed that not only because it's a progressive disease, so not only um, was he not getting worse, he was actually getting better, which is miraculous. So if somebody's not getting worse, that's progress, right? Because it's a progressive disease.
Yep.
And I had the honor of teaching that program and seeing just that happen with these people. So it's very, very challenging because people with Parkinson's are prone to falling and hurting themselves. But I mean, I think the important thing overall is just for them to be getting out and doing something together. And yeah, so it was, and I worked alongside the kids, and I just love working with the kids, doing the kids programs. And I did a lot of, I did a lot of recreational programs as it's in the community. I think a lot of us have it. It's always been sort of sewn to me that you got to give back, and sort of if you want to keep it, you got to give it away. And I think over the years, all of us fighters that are in the community, like Andrew Cooner and the people and Andre Georges and like Sammy Almays, all the fighters that I grew up training that are champions too, they all end up coming back to the gym. We all end up coming back to the gym and to the boxing, and we want to give back, any way that we can, and it's usually with the kids. Yeah.
All right. So now that you're from Canada, I'm from Minnesota. We both get a lot of snow. So
Oh,
question
are you excited about
16.
your Vikings or what?
No, 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 no. I don't like the Vikings. Honestly, I like the
I just gave
Packers.
up on them too, but then they're supposed to have a good season this year. So
I'm
anyway,
actually a
yeah, the
green.
snow.
I'm a Green Bay fan because I'm originally from Wisconsin.
Ah, good for you. Cheesehead, cheesehead.
But question 16, do you enjoy doing winter activities like snowboarding, snowmobiling, ice fishing, ice skating, any type of winter activity?
Ice skating, check. I took figure skating when I was a kid. I never played hockey. I was a figure skater. Snowboarding all the way. I used to ride that all the time here right on Vancouver Island, Mount Washington. I'd hit up Whistler a few times, and I loved it in my teenage years. I still do it now, but it's not at the level I used to. And then like a lot of tobogganing. Was that on the list?
Yeah, well,
Tobogganing with the
any
kids.
winter activities.
And just like snowshoeing, our families do a lot of it, and yeah, a lot of snowball fights. One of my favorites is just Christmas caroling out there. Um, and also, what was I going to say about that? Oh, I've never gone ice fishing. I'd like to. I planned on it. I was living on the lakes, and I never got a chance to. It's still on my bucket list. One I should have done by now. But
Okay. All right, question
how about you? You
17.
do any ice fishing? Oh, I'm not asking the questions.
Oh no, but no, I have done a little bit of ice fishing, but
What am
I
I missing?
I'm not a huge winter person, even though I live here and we have winter like 9 months a year.
Am I missing anything? Tell me.
No, not really. Some people like to sit out on the ice in their little sheds and do it. I don't
Yeah,
prefer to be out on the ice. I get a little nervous, especially on Lake Superior, that I'm gonna fall through. So I
yeah,
don't
that's
really
real.
care for it. I mean, I've tried
That's
it a
real.
couple times just to say I've done it. So question 17, how do you inspire other people?
I'd like to hope that I inspire other people. And I know that I know that when my friends call me after a huge New Year's party and say, I want to be more like you and not drink because they're dying and they're feeling totally sick, I might have had some kind of inspiration on them. Like I said, giving back to the kids. When you see this kid come into the gym and he's got, very little confidence, and I don't even know how they got in the door. They got two left feet. I don't even know what they think they're doing in a boxing club, to be honest, when they first come in. They can't walk, let alone run. So you get them in there, and in a matter of time, and it takes time, but just to see them grow and develop, and then like I remember this one kid, and you never would have thought he would have been able to run around the block, and the day he did it, just how I could cry, just how proud it was of him, how proud he was of himself, and like that is just giving these kids confidence to get through life today, and it's so valuable if I can be an influence that way, and I hope that I've been an influence to women to be strong and to push forward in anything that they want to pursue, uh, because it wasn't ever my intention, but obviously it just the way it was. It was tough for us in my era fighting and getting recognition in the sport of boxing as women. Today it's in the Olympics. It didn't happen in my time, but I'm very proud to say that I may have had a hand in that. So yeah.
Okay. Question 18. Do you have any phobias?
Phobias.
Yeah.
Little bit claustrophobic,
Okay.
but I've sort of overcome it somewhat. Um, you know what? I'm pretty happy, joyous, and free today, and I try to keep it that way.
All
Yeah,
right.
I really don't feel like I have a lot of phobias.
All right. Question
I'll eat a
9.
spider. I ain't afraid of no spider. I don't sweat that spider.
All right. Question 19. Do you have a favorite female fighter?
A favorite female fighter?
Yeah.
I'm going with, and I shouldn't even have to struggle to say this, Margaret Sidoroff, and she was recently inducted too. Like she was my inspiration. I'm not gonna lie, she was undefeated. And if you ever watched her, even her fight with Jeannine Blackshear, she went up in weight, and we all would have liked to see her take the big risk and fight in Germany her own self, but it just didn't work out. But she was amazing, and like today, I kind of almost. I can't even say I kind of almost, but if you know Margaret, she just has a very diligent, regimented. I mean, she's fun and everything, but like when she was training, she was just, she never ate the wrong foods. She's very, very high, integral way of life, and very admirable, and something I didn't think that I could ever achieve, and I sort of by default ended up getting close, maybe, but not even close, really. But she's an amazing woman, very dedicated in life, all around, in whatever she does. And so, as a fighter, she was the same way. And I think a lot of us fighters, we are like that, or we admire that because it's something that comes with boxing and putting yourself in the ring and just, you know, dedicating yourself 110% into this fight one on one and seeing what the result will be. It's pushing yourself to the max.
All right. All right. Last question. Question 20.
It's got to be
If,
big.
if you had to pick one charity to give $100 million to, who would you give it to and why?
Wow. My opportunity to be a philanthropist. Well, I can't create my own charity. I guess, in saying that, I'd have to go research about,
I
sports
mean,
for kids.
is there
I don't
anybody, is
know
there any
exactly.
charities right now that you're passionate about that?
I never really involved myself in much other than the boxing club. Can I just give it to the boxing club?
Yeah, no, that's fine. You
Like
can,
boxing
I
clubs all
just was
around?
curious. Yeah, there you go.
We're a non-profit organization.
Exactly, that works. That would
I
help
don't know.
out a lot of amateur fighters.
Oh my
$100 million.
goodness. We could spend that in a heartbeat. Like every boxing club you ever went to is a hole in the ground. But maybe that's a good thing. Maybe that's where all the character comes from. But sometimes it'd be nice to have a roof that doesn't leak. Because when you have to come in and mop up all the water off the floor just to train every day, I mean, I guess it's good for you, but it really stinks. And I don't even know if it's good for you to breathe all the mold that's on the bottom of the like basement floor. But these are the kinds of places that the biggest champions seem to come out of. So I don't know if I'd want to change it actually, but I
Okay.
I would give like I always when I think about where I would give back, that's where I would give back to the boxing club. You know.
Okay. No, that's understandable. I mean, it would be your $100 million. You could do it, whatever charity you wanted. And like you said, they're a nonprofit. That would help a lot of amateur kids.
Yeah,
And who knows? Maybe it would. Maybe you'd get the next 6-time female world champion out of that.
that would be outstanding, and I could live vicariously through her.
Well, listen, I have enjoyed you coming on and doing the 20 random questions. I thought you had fun with them. I loved your stories and you being honest with a lot of stuff I didn't know about you. And if you want to say anything to your fans or give a shout out to anybody, go ahead.
I love my fans. I was just talking about, the city of Windsor where I train, but my hometown, Duncan, BC, and in this Cowichan Valley has been supportive of me, and my grandmother, and my father, who's my number one fan, my entire family, and everybody who's out there listening to this who took the time to do that. I really appreciate it, and and I'm honored to be here and share today. So thank you very much, John, for having me on the show.
Oh, I appreciate it. Thank you for taking time and coming on. And with that, the truth has spoken. Hold on.